This episode is brought to you by the Slash and Cast Podcast Network. Learn more at slashandcast.net.
Hello and welcome to the Conjecturween, a Halloweenish podcast. This is our fourth week of Conjecturween. We got 1 week to go after this. Wow, this time is flying by right now. It's crazy. Yeah. So with me is Laura.
Hello.
And Greg.
Hey, everybody.
And I'm your host, Rob. How's everybody doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Good, Rob. Good.
Doing good.
My lips are chapped, but...
Okay. Yeah. I'm glad everybody's aware of that now listening. That's good. They can picture your cracked lips looking like Michael's cracked mask in this movie.
Ooh.
It's a good one. Yeah, I like it.
Right.
Greg. I like it.
Smooth. Unlike my lips.
Yeah, unlike your lips, yeah. So
my God.
Speaking of Greg's lips and what he's wearing, what are you wearing tonight, Greg? What's your background? What do you got going on tonight?
Yeah. My background is pretty straightforward. It's pitch black. It's got the mask of the new mask of old Michael Myers. And my outfit is also the same. I've got kind of the same mask that I created for part one, the 1978 movie. Although I added a bunch of crow's feet, birds' feet, all kinds of animal feet on the skin to make him look old and wrinkly and retired.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And retired.
Yeah, he's definitely coming out of retirement for this, but
that's funny.
He's much older.
Yeah. He didn't take up golfing. He took up more killing. Laura, what about you? What do you got for your background for this Halloween episode 2018 movie?
My background is Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode and her daughter Karen Strode in her Christmas sweater. And I have also come dressed as Karen Strode in my red and white Christmas sweater. And I wanted to ask you guys, just off the bat, do you guys know why she's wearing a Christmas sweater?
Wasn't it just the fact that they just don't want to acknowledge the Halloween season at all because of all the killings, right?
Exactly. It's almost like a rebellion thing. They just hate Halloween. She doesn't even want to acknowledge it to her mom. She just was like, I don't celebrate. Mm-hmm. We're just, you know what? We're going straight to Christmas. So
she doesn't doesn't pass Thanksgiving. What happened to the middle holiday in there?
I think Thanksgiving is just too close to Halloween.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
I wonder if she's the person that shuts off her lights then when it's trick-or-treating time for the kids, or if she's that a-hole person that gives out apples and cans of peas and toothbrush. Yeah, stupid stuff like that. What do you think, Laura? Does she try to ruin kids' holidays as well?
I think she probably just turns her light out and doesn't pass out anything. They just pretend like it's a regular day,
I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say that she's handing out, military grade ammunitions to the local neighborhood kids.
Wait, that's the mom. That's Lori. That's not the daughter.
Yeah, that's not Karen.
Oh, you don't think a little bit of that rubbed off? Okay. Well, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, we'll get into it.
Yeah, that's funny. For me, my background and my outfit, I'm an inmate at what is it called, Laura? What is this place called?
Smith's Grove.
Smith's Grove. I got SG on my little shirt here. Greg made a comment that I look like I'm wearing a straitjacket again, but that's just my body. So it's a nice callback again. So I'm just an inmate this week, I was thinking of trying to bring in my umbrella, like that one guy who's spinning an umbrella in this movie, looked like the Penguin and shit,
Oh my God.
But yeah, that was pretty cool though. So yeah, there we go. I like it. Yeah, so let's get to what we're drinking tonight now. So let me get the drop going here.
What's in the cups?
Laura, what are we drinking tonight, Laura?
Tonight we are all drinking a gin fizz. And the reason is because the main ingredient in a gin fizz, after gin, of course, are egg whites. And I did this because eggs, this movie is loaded with Easter eggs, probably more Easter eggs than I have seen in maybe any other horror movie. Mm-hmm. Maybe not Cabin in the Woods, but anyway, that's for another day. So just so many, and I can't wait to talk about all of them with you guys. And that's kind of what made me think of, it's kind of weird, but I totally thought of a gin fizz, plus they're delicious. So
nice.
Cheers.
I like it. Cheers.
Nice.
Cheers. Nice. I like it.
Cheers.
So let's get to some little updates before we get into a little bit more of the pod here. So Laura, do you got any listener comments, questions, anything like that from emails?
I do. Someone reached out on Instagram, Annie B. Actually, I'm just realizing those initials now. It's kind of a it's Easter egg in itself to Halloween.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Nice, Annie B. And she said, just finished your Halloween podcast episode. I am a huge fan and I've seen it a cajillion times. I never caught the line and then we'll take Lindsay's clothes off. Weird, crazy. So that's pretty cool that someone who is a huge fan, seen it a million times, listened to our episode and heard something new for the first time, that we conjectured, the fact that line was in the movie and how off-putting it was, and wondering if it was even scripted in the first place. So that's really cool. We love hearing feedback like that. So awesome. Keep it coming.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was crazy when we heard that. I know me and Greg heard it right away, and Laura was like, "What are you guys talking about?" Like,
yeah,
But yeah, that was super surprising.
I always think it's funny to look at old, movies that you've seen a lot, and then when someone points out a blooper, like a guy who's clearly just pretending to sweep, or someone who's just dressed in street clothes in the 17th century or something, you go, "How did I not notice that before?" But it's because I think after repetition, you're just looking for the same things that you've been always looking for,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, crazy. Yeah, we love getting, listener, feedback, whether it's, positive, negative, shouting out things we do. You guys can always hit us up, conjecturingpod@gmail.com, or Twitter, Instagram @conjecturingpod. Yeah, so let's, do we got anything we want to talk about from last week's episode? Last week we did Rob Zombie's, reimagined Halloween 2007 version. I have a little thing to talk about if you guys don't have anything else. Do you guys have anything you want to talk about?
No, go for it.
So last week, I was very high on Dr. Loomis in that movie. That was what's his name, Laura? What's his name?
Malcolm McDonald.
Malcolm McDonald. Saying that I thought he really cared for Michael. He had feelings for him. This and that. Laura made the comment in the pod saying, get back to me when you watch the sequel. So I watched the sequel, and I have to say, spoilers for the 2009 Rob Zombie Halloween 2. That guy's a fucking asshole.
Yeah,
he is an asshole. Such an asshole. In the sequel, it's so weird because I feel like I don't change my opinion from what I felt in the original movie, but the sequel to Rob Zombie's film, everybody is so dark and demented. They've all been through so many things that they're all twisted. But yeah, McDowell in the sequel is such an asshole. He clearly didn't ever care about Michael. It was all about money. But I just wanted to give Laura a shout out and say, yeah, you're right. He's an asshole in the sequel. Just if you put them together as one movie, he's definitely not a good guy. You know. So before we get into our kind of opening to the movie here a bit, we want to remind everybody the podcast network we're on, Slash and Cast Network. They're going to be doing a Halloween virtual convention. We actually just got done recording our little bit right before this one, so that's probably where we're a little drunk.
A little?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. But the convention is going to be October 30th and 31st live on the Slash and Cast YouTube channel. It's 100% free. They're going to have, celebrity interviews, segments. All the podcasts are providing some form of little video content, 30 to 40 minutes. So we're going to be there doing that, which is pretty cool. It was fun. We did our top 5 Halloweenish characters. So if anybody's interested to hear what our top 5 Halloweenish characters are, you're going to have to check it out on the network, 30th and 31st. So let's get into the actual little bit of the movie here. We're doing 2018's Halloween. This is the most recent one. This is what David Gordon Green's movie. So Laura, why are we doing this movie now?
Why? I mean, why not? This is.
I feel like that's your answer every week for any of these Halloween movies. You just love them. You love them all.
I kind of do. Like Rob said, it's the most recent Halloween installment. We get Jamie Lee Curtis back, and she's flipping the script and is a total badass. I really taking a page out of Erin's book From Your Next, which I love. I mean, obviously, you guys remember how obsessed with her I was. So. I talk a lot about timelines in the Halloween franchise, and I love how this one picks up after 40 years, right after the first one. And I think that made for a really great storyline. Yeah, exactly. I agree. It's definitely going back to John Carpenter's true, what he thought he wanted to do with this whole franchise. Yes.
So before we get into more of the movie a bit, let's do our horror segment of the week. So this week, Laura, let's see what Laura has this week for us.
Any questions?
Okay, we got a question this week from Laura. All right, Laura, what's our horror-ish question this week?
Actually, it's questions.
Oh,
plural. So I am presenting a game of Would You Rather between Greg and Rob this week. And it's only 5 questions, so it's going to go super quick. And it's questions I want to see out of all of these unfortunate situations that occur in horror movies that I'm pretty sure we've seen. And if not, let me know, and then I can easily swap it out.
If any of them involve murdering someone, Greg's pro that. So we know his answer is going to be yes.
We'll see.
Okay. All right. Okay.
And so I'm going to be asking, would you rather of the 2 situations? Obviously, I want to know why. But the little twist I am going to do with this is that I'm going to ask you guys these questions rapid fire. So when I ask it, I think what I want to do is when I ask the first question, Greg, you're up, Rob, you're next. And then for question number 2, Rob, you're up, Greg, you're next. And I'll keep reminding you, but I want it to go really fast. I'm going to write down what you guys pick. And then after you answer it rapid fire, let's unpack it. And I want to see why you chose that, over the other. And I really want to see, in my mind, you're choosing it because you think you have a better chance of survival in that situation.
Yeah.
I'm really interested to get in both of your psyches,
So it's like 3, 2, 1 answer. It's not like Double Jeopardy. We get a minute with some music to deliberate. It's just okay.
So for question number 1, Greg, I'm going to let you answer first. And as soon as I'm done with the question, I want you to answer. And as soon as you're done, Rob, you're up. Okay.
Let's do it. I'm following you up. I'm right behind you, Greg.
I know this is going to be really funny considering that we're kind of drunk right now. All right.
I'm breathing down. I'm breathing down your neck, Greg. I'm breathing down your neck.
God. Okay.
All right. Question 1. Let's do it. Rapid fire.
So question 1, it's going to be you, Greg, then you, Rob. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Would you rather spend your summer at Camp Crystal Lake from Friday the 13th or the cabin from the Evil Dead? Go. No, go.
Dishwasher. That's my answer. I haven't seen either of these movies.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Camp Crystal Lake from Friday the 13th or the cabin from Cabin in the Woods. Go.
I'm going to say cabin from Cabin in the Woods.
All right, Rob.
That's my answer.
Rob's had a lot of time to think about this now.
I'm doing Camp Crystal Lake.
All right. Number 2, Rob, you're going to go first, and then Greg, no pausing right after, okay?
I'm gonna edit like a minute pause.
No. Okay. Ready? Would you rather be haunted by the girl from The Ring or the demon from Paranormal Activity for 1 year? Go.
The girl from The Ring. Don't know why.
Wasn't your turn.
Wait, what? That wasn't a choice? The girl from The Ring?
No, but it wasn't your turn. Rob was going first.
You got me all flustered, like I'm sweating from all the stress.
That's why I'm doing this. I'm just trying to add another fun layer to it. All right, Rob, what's your answer that you've got to think about?
Okay, what are my choices again? Greg threw me off.
Would you rather be haunted by the girl from The Ring or the demon from Paranormal Activity for a year?
Paranormal Activity.
All right, Greg, you get to go first this time. Let's see if we can get this right.
Yeah, third time's the charm. Third time's the charm, Greg.
All right. Ready?
Yep.
Okay. Would you rather spend a week alone in a room with Annabelle or the nun? Go.
Annabelle.
All right. Rob?
Oh, my turn. Okay. I'm gonna go with Annabelle too.
Okay. These next 2 get a little trickier, so really try to stick with me
we're
here.
we're not gonna do very good then because we're falling apart here.
Yeah. I know you really are. Okay. I should have been like, would you rather be Michael Myers or Freddy Krueger? Okay.
No,
anyway.
I feel like me and Greg are riding a tandem bicycle with no wheels. Like we're falling all over the place right now. We don't know what's happening.
All right. Rob, you're going to answer this question first, and then Greg, as soon as Rob answers, then you get to answer. Okay?
Got it.
Okay. Here we go. Would you rather be stuck inside the cell with Hannibal Lecter, but he has a weapon, or stuck inside a small room with the entire family from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but they do not have weapons? Go.
Oh my God. I'm gonna say Hannibal Lecter then.
All right. Greg?
Yeah, Hannibal Lecter as well.
All right.
With the weapon. Wait, you didn't specify what weapon?
I didn't.
Do we get to pick, like in our game? Do I get to pick a candlestick in the...
Can it be just like a spoon of fava beans?
We can unpack it. But the whole point of this question is that it's one guy with a weapon or a whole family without. And it's like, but that's a lot of people.
Okay.
So,
all right.
All right. Very last question. And this one is going to go to, who am I up? Who's up first?
Greg first.
Greg. This is going to go to Greg first and then Rob. Okay. So this one is a little bit longer. So just give me a second to get it all out. Okay, ready? You are in the movie Saw, but it is real life. Would you rather wake up in the reversible bear claw trap over your head, needing to find the key in another dead person's stomach, or wake up in a pit of unknown dirty needles looking for the key?
Oh, bear trap. Hands down.
All right, Rob?
Wait, can I get the choices again? Just want to screw with Laura.
Reversible bear claw trap over your head, and you have to find the key in another dead person's stomach guts, or wake up in a pit of unknown dirty needles looking for the key.
Yeah, I guess bear trap. Bear trap then.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. All right. So, question number 1. Would you rather spend your summer at Camp Crystal Lake or from the Cabin in the Woods? All right. So, Greg, you said Cabin in the Woods. Why do you think that that is the better option here?
You know, without getting into too much detail into the movies themselves, I just feel more comfortable in a cabin. I feel like I can hole up and start setting booby traps a la Macaulay Culkin, a la Laurie Strode, and just work my way from there. I feel like, you know, when you're being hunted, when you are the prey, your best shot at survival is to hole up and start setting traps. You can't do that at a giant lake where the murderer is, you know, running free around the woods. So I'm taking the cabin.
All right. And then, Rob, you said the opposite. You said Camp Crystal Lake.
I picked Camp Crystal Lake just because of the lake. I can go in the lake and chill. I don't think Jason can get me in the lake.
He comes up out of the water.
I don't know. I don't think so. But
are you a good swimmer, Rob?
Okay. Then I already picked the lake, so I gotta pay it. But it's nice scenery. It looks pretty. You know?
All right. All right.
I like lakes. You know.
It's a good point. If your life's going to be over, might as well, you know, enjoy a beautiful, you know, lake scenery before it's over.
All right.
Yeah, I like it. Mm-hmm.
Nice. Okay. So, Rob, for 1 year, you would rather be haunted by the demon from Paranormal Activity versus the girl from The Ring. Why do you think that you can survive the demon from Paranormal Activity?
Probably because I'm not gonna have a picture of my ex on the wall at the same time. So I think I don't think the demon's gonna be that mad at me. I'm just gonna be like, oh, this is who I'm with. I'm not having my ex on the wall. Yeah, and so I don't think it's not gonna be that bad.
Very acceptable answer. I like that.
Better than my lake answer.
Yes.
Okay.
You've redeemed yourself.
Okay.
And then, Greg, you picked the girl from The Ring.
I did, just because I feel like she has limits. Like, you know, she crawls. She's got the hair over her head. You know, I mean, just put a box over her, and you know, where's she gonna go?
Put a box over her.
Demon from Paranormal Activity can get into attics. He can, you know, he's invisible. I don't like the unseen threat. That really bugs me, because I feel like, you know, you're gonna be going to sleep at night. You can't see where it's coming from. You don't know when it's gonna be there. At least with the Ring girl, you know that she's gonna pop out after you've watched the tape, and then just put a wall between you and her, and you're good.
Wow.
Nice. I thought you were going to say you're a hopeless romantic, and you heard The Ring and a lady, and you got excited.
We were so not in the right headspace for this game, but all right.
No,
I love it.
Okay. All right. Would you rather spend a week alone in a room with Annabelle or the Nun? You both picked Annabelle, and I have to say that was obviously the right answer.
I'm glad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Do either of you want to just kind of talk about that? I think it's pretty obvious, but you know, you never know. Some people are afraid of dolls, so I had to ask.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was just about the fact that I'm pretty sure you can like lock Annabelle in a closet or behind a door. I feel like you have to open the door for her to come through. I know like the entity is attached to the doll, but in all the movies, I think Annabelle can't like just open things. I don't think so. The Nun, I feel like, is an actual like spirit that's free to roam. So I feel like she can kind of just get you wherever the hell you're at.
I don't know, Rob. They put Annabelle in a dumpster, and she popped up to the door like in a minute. So I don't know,
but still had to knock. She still had to knock on the door.
Still had to knock. Yeah.
Maybe she's just polite. She has manners, so maybe that's why. Okay.
But nuns don't have manners. I don't know. Maybe
not this nun.
Not this nun. Not that nun.
That's none your business. That's what she is.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't want any part of that.
The Nun is truly like the most horrifying person in horror. I feel like it's all sorts of fucked up, but all right. So question 4, would you rather be stuck inside the cell with Hannibal Lecter, who has a weapon, or stuck inside a small room with the entire family of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre with no weapons? You both actually picked in the cell with Hannibal Lecter, even though he has a weapon. I'm a little surprised. So yeah, Greg, talk about why that was your pick.
Ain't nobody want to be in a cell with those creepers. Like, they're not armed, but they'll put all kinds of things in you. They're weird. they're dangerous. They can't be reasoned with. I feel like with Hannibal, you could at least talk to him. And look, he's being fed prison food, right? Maybe he's not really
He doesn't like it. It's not his type of food.
It's not, but I've got the age gap on him. I feel like I could take him. And you didn't specify the weapon. You didn't say he's got a rifle or a machete. I'm going to assume he's got like a pencil, and I feel like I could take him.
He's got a skinning device.
Ooh, what?
Shit. That's gross.
That's a cheese grater?
Yeah, there you go.
Man. Dang, I feel like I need to change can I change my answer? Am I allowed to change my answer now?
Yeah, you could change your answer. I'm allowing it.
I think I am gonna change it because my first thought was like the what is the other one? What are the other people called?
The family from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah, the Texas Chainsaw family. To me, their mouth are weapons. Like they're just gonna like bite the shit out of you, So like I'm like they both have weapons, but I didn't really think of the fact that if you're Hannibal Lecter, you're trapped in a cell, right?
Yeah, prison.
At least
cell.
if you're with the family, I'm pretty sure you're just in a house, which you can get out of a house.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how I'm gonna get out, but at least I can escape a house rather than a cell, which is built to contain you. So I think I'm going to change to Hannibal to the Texas Chainsaw family.
Very logical.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. And then I saved this question for last because I don't even know how I would answer it. But I said, would you rather wake up and be in that reversible bear claw trap over your head? And the only way to get out is to find a key, which is inside another person who is deceased in their stomach. Or to wake up in a pit of unknown, dirty needles, like swimming in them, looking for the key.
Well, for me, it was just the dirty needles. I'm like, I just don't want to be. I'd rather have my head ripped off like quick and I die maybe quick than be like poked by needles until like I bleed out or until I get some random Ebola disease and my skin starts melting. Like, and I was like, no, I'm like in my mind, I'm like, I'm probably gonna die either way. I might as well go to the one that's probably gonna be fast.
Ah. Okay, that does make sense, actually. I wasn't thinking of the quick death aspect.
Yeah.
So it was a cakewalk for you too, Greg?
Yeah, same thing. Look, I got to dig into someone's body. Okay, at least I don't have to get jabbed by, a million. I remember watching that scene and the hairs stood up on my entire body watching that. It was just, ugh. Yeah, that's easy. I'll get taken out by a bear trap any day. What about you, Laura? Why was this one so controversial?
Yeah, this one I actually think I would go with the needles.
Really?
Yes. So, I mean, yeah, I know that a lot of people have a thing with needles. That's like a common phobia as it is.
Yeah.
Not even dirty needles. So I know that that's why it freaks a lot of people out. I am someone who I don't mind needles at all. Like anytime I get my blood drawn, I watch. I don't think it's weird. I don't think it's gross. I don't think it hurts.
You guys say I'm the killer. Okay, well.
Needles they've never bothered me. I have great veins in my arms. So doctors love me. I don't know. And in my mind, okay, yeah, sure.
My veins, they're so great. They're so amazing. I have the greatest veins.
People like my veins. Doctors.
Oh, dang. That's how you got your husband. I know.
Yeah, he was like, look at those sexy ass veins.
I know. Yeah.
All right, we're getting really off track here. So, obviously, yes, if they're dirty, they probably do have diseases, and that is obviously not ideal. But I think in my mind, I'm like, all right, I'm going to get poked a few times. Might be a little bit painful. If I get the key, I'll get out of there. I can go to the hospital and be like, I've been exposed to all these needles, put some antibiotics in me. I don't know, antiviral shit. I just like the bear claw trap ripping your top jaw and your bottom jaw and just ripping your head apart. And the fact that you have to dumpster dive into someone's fucking stomach. I can't do it.
I mean, we know Greg's cool with that. He does that every other Sunday. Like it's not a big deal, It'd be a little challenging for me, but yeah, I'd still rather take that than getting poked. I don't have good veins, so no doctor has ever complimented my. Usually they're like, "Hey, fat guy, we can't find shit."
Oh my god!
So yeah, nobody's liking my veins. So yeah, I'm definitely not picking that.
All right, I like it. All right, yeah. So those were my questions. Good job, you guys. That was really interesting.
Nice.
I feel like I got a true peek into the inside of your guys' psyche.
Oh,
there.
I like that. Insides are insides. I like that. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like by the fifth question, me and Greg finally got how this game worked, and we actually knew how to answer. Yeah.
Right.
That was funny. Yeah. So
She made it really simple.
yeah. So it was actually very simple, Laura. It's our fault. Yeah. So if anybody wants to email us in, let us know what choices they would make between those 5 scenarios. You can hit us up conjecturingpod@gmail or Twitter, Instagram at conjecturingpod. All right, let's get going to the movie now. So now it's time to let's open the kitchen bunker. Let's open that kitchen bunker up. And get to the movie this week. So like we said, we're doing 2018's Halloween. Director is David Gordon Green. Also written, he wrote it with Danny McBride at the same time.
Yeah.
Which was crazy. I remember hearing when they announced Danny McBride and David Gordon Green are going to do this. And I was like, wait, what? I'm like, the comedy guys? Like, I mean, like Laura even put on here too, was something I knew that David Gordon Green, he directed Pineapple Express. I mean, him and Danny McBride go back to, they did Eastbound and Down together. I think he might have directed some of the episodes. They did was it Vice Principals with Danny McBride. So like,
nice.
So they have a really good comedic connection. So, but still, like when you hear they're doing the Halloween movie, you're like, what? Yeah. But yeah, when you read more interviews, you just realize how much they loved the franchise, and and just seeing like what they want to do. And they had an awesome take that not only the producers of this show, of this movie loved, John Carpenter himself loved it enough to come back on board. So it's pretty crazy. Yeah, so the budget of this movie was $10 to $15 million. Box office was $255 million. So this, talk about cleaned up at the box office. Like this made all the monies. This made every money that came out that year.
All the monies.
All the monies. Yeah, everything. So
we're definitely getting like a Halloween all the way up to like 2,500. I mean, it's just going to go on and on, won't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Laura, do you want to do some interesting facts?
Yeah. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm going to touch on something that Rob just said. John Carpenter, he did not want to be involved in really any of the Halloween sequels after the original. However, everyone would still kind of pitch the ideas to him, which I think he appreciated. And when he heard the pitch for this Halloween sequel, he actually loved it so much that he did kind of come back on board, helped with scene ideas. He also composed the music with his son, Cody Carpenter, and his godson, Daniel Davies. So I thought that was a really cool fact. Also, Nick Castle, he is the original actor behind Michael in 1978. He actually does a few scenes in this one, and he does all of the takes with the breathing sounds.
Wow.
So that's him breathing, and that he's, the original one. I thought that was awesome. And then, $255.5 million. Halloween 2018 was the biggest horror movie opening with a female lead. It was the biggest movie opening with the female lead over 55, and just biggest opening for any of the Halloween franchise films. So,
wow.
Pretty big.
That's huge.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's definitely, yeah. Like I said, it took every money from that year it got. It's crazy. Yeah.
Every pennies.
Yeah. Laura, do you want to do cast too?
Yeah, so main cast, the person who was mostly behind Michael Myers is James Jude Courtney. We've got Jamie Lee Curtis back as our Laurie Strode. Judy Greer, who I love, is Karen Nelson or Karen Strode. We have Will Patton. He's been in a lot of stuff.
Mothman. He's a Mothman.
Yeah, he is in Mothman. So he's Deputy Hawkins. Apologies if I say this incorrectly, but you have Haluk Bilginer. He is Dr. Sartain, Michael's new doctor, who is also a student of Loomis, or as Laurie calls him, New Loomis.
Yeah, New Loomis. Yeah.
I love that. And then we also have Andy Matichak as Allison Nelson, who is Laurie Strode's granddaughter.
Nice. Yeah, pretty good cast. I mean, the fact that they brought back Jamie Lee is like super cool. I
mean, yeah.
I think I read something too. Same thing with John Carpenter. Right when she heard the pitch and she read the script, she was like, "I'm in." She's like, "This is really cool. This is something different." She gets to be way badass in this movie. So yeah, it's really cool. Yeah. Do you want to do synopsis, Laura?
Yeah. So it's been 40 years since that fateful Halloween night, 1978 in Haddenfield. At the time, Michael, 21 years old, escaped from the institution that he had been at since he was 6, and had kind of set his eyes on Laurie Strode. And after murdering many people and attempting to murder her, he was re-institutionalized. So now we are 40 years later. Michael Myers is 61 years old. He escapes again, and he is coming back to finish the job on Laurie Strode. However, this time she is ready for him.
Did he escape, or was he let loose? That's one of the questions I'm going to ask you guys a little bit later.
Ooh, yeah.
We'll get into it.
That is a good question.
Yeah. So do you want to take over here, Laura? Kind of run over the show?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, let's just start with the opening. I feel like there's a lot to even unpack in the opening. Greg, do you want to kind of kick it off with the opening?
Yeah, before the movie even starts, I have to say I love the intro to this movie. So it starts off, first of all, you have the OG, like, dull orange credits. The names are popping up. And then you've got this, like, spoiled, smushed pumpkin that kind of, they've got it. It looks like the film was reversed somehow to where it goes from a spoiled pumpkin over time to a fresh new, well, it's actually more of like a jack-o'-lantern rather, not a pumpkin. And that just instantly makes you think, okay, well, it's like resurrecting Michael Myers or resurrecting the franchise. That's the first thing I got. And then, toward the end of the credits, it kind of zooms into the center of the jack-o'-lantern, and the way that the eye and the nose is kind of cut out, it looks like Michael Myers with the knife. Just artistically, that first few minutes was genius. Mm-hmm. Absolutely genius.
Yeah. I think I read that's exactly what they did with the pumpkin. They put a camera on a fresh pumpkin and let the camera just film for like 2 weeks and just let the pumpkin dissolve away, and then they reverse the frames for the event. Yeah.
Well, what's cool about it is that exact jack-o'-lantern, even with like the little cut in the lip, that was exactly what it looked like with Halloween 1978's intro. That is what the jack-o'-lantern looked like. Exactly. Yeah. Rob, what about like the intro with the true crime journalists and kind of seeing where Michael's at? You got the background going right now of of Smith's Grove.
Yeah, the podcasters.
yeah, exactly.
I thought it was just so funny that like we do a podcast, and then of course these guys like are they doing their true crime or whatever, making a murderer podcast. At first they show up there, they're documenting what's going on with Michael, this transfer. They say that they do, they look at old murders and try to like see different takes on them and stuff like that. But it was funny when they talk into the actual microphone themselves, the way they talk was like the typical podcast voice. You know what I mean? Like very reserved, like, hello, like we are going into the meadow today, and it's just like that way. And it just made me think like, we do not sound like that as podcasters, us. So right away I put in my notes, like, they're fucking podcasters. I fucking knew it. And then eventually when they reveal that they do it, I'm like, of course they are. But it's cool. It's a good spin. It's modern. It makes sense. But I love the actual like opening of like the asylum, the inmates just setting up like the derangement of these people. I thought was really cool. I really like the fact that they have all the inmates like in an open yard getting their fresh air time, and they're chained to like the floor like dogs. I thought was like really fucking crazy and cool. It made so much sense though. They have a certain amount of length in their chain. They have a yellow box that, you can't go closer because the chain, that's as far as it goes. So I thought it was really cool. And then of course, seeing the mask for the first time again and just how like worn out and broken it is so cool. It's a really good like opening to this movie that like sets you on a good journey.
I totally agree. I love the opening. I think it's super artistic, even just like the ground, the checkered red and white boxes, the fact that they are in their little yellow boxes. And then even after he, the podcaster, whatever his name is, Aaron, I think, even after he takes the mask out, all the other inmates are screaming from their perspective boxes, but not Michael. He senses it, he feels it, but he doesn't even react. He stands still. But I have to ask you guys, I was already yelling during the scene because, first of all, the guy that is working at the asylum, he's like, don't step near or on the yellow line. Did you notice that the guy, Aaron, his toe totally goes on I was like, you're literally almost in the box, man.
I know nobody's not going to get this reference, but me and Greg play basketball. And when Greg shoots free throws, for some reason, he puts his toe over the line, and me and my buddies have to call him out every fucking time. So Greg is definitely this fucking podcaster that sticks.
I'm that guy. It's where you start the motion of your shot.
Oh my God. I don't know. I was yelling about that and in a good way yelling, and not like, oh, I hate this movie. I love this movie. But also just the fact that why the hell did you bring the mask? why are you like showing him the mask? Why do you have the mask so close to him? I mean, I just was like, oh my God, these guys are so stupid. I think in the beginning, these guys are goners, right? Like, how stupid can you be?
I think pretty much, for me, this podcaster guy and the new Dr. Loomis, they are like exactly the same mindset. They're trying to push Michael to a breaking point to see what happens. Not ever thinking like, should they? Like they just want to get what they want to get out of it, and they don't give a shit whatever happens.
Like you said, when the other inmates were screaming, you know what it reminded me of was 28 Days Later, where you have like a jailhouse full of animals or even other inmates, and they're all like banging at the jail cell bars, or the animals are like rattling their cages, and like because they're freaking out that the main prime animal, like the alpha animal, is being like attacked, or it's being released, or it's about to strike. And that's what it really reminded me of. And I thought that was a really cool thing they did.
Oh, it's 100% animalistic. I mean, like I said, they literally have them on chains like dogs. Like, I think when you're that psychotic and insane, you're going to such a basic primal way of living your life that you are resorting to your animalistic tendencies 100%. That's all you have left there. So it makes so much sense that these people would feel that like an animal would feel like an intruder. It makes so much sense that they did that. Yeah, it's actually really crazy.
Yeah. Okay, and then keeping with the opening, how did you guys feel when you were first shown Lori and her lifestyle at the time? What did you think about that, Rob?
I thought it was actually really cool. It's actually so interesting coming off doing our Conjecturween, where we've been watching all these Halloween movies, and we can't help but compare, contrast like certain things, certain aspects from each other. I mean, definitely you're going to be comparing the OG to this movie, but also at the same time, I'm somewhat kind of comparing it to Rob Zombie's a bit. The fact that, Laurie and Rob Zombie's was so broken and destroyed from what happened to her. And it's very similar to this movie, showing Laurie, 40 years later from what happened to her, and just how like it ruined like her psyche. It ruined her mind. It made her scared of everything, but at the same time, not just scared, but also like, more aggressive, assertive, more, preparing for the worst, not ever seeing like the happiness in anything again. But it's totally understandable. I mean, like, I think the new Dr. Loomis states at one point in this, when a certain tragic event happens, you either revert to, kind of like back to normal, and you're kind of like blocking it out like a lot of people do, or you're going the opposite way and you're fully engulfed to this for the rest of your life. And so it was super realistic, I thought, which I think was one of the reasons why Jamie Lee Curtis really chose to do this movie, because it was real, it was accurate, and it was something we've never seen, this type of persona before on screen. Very like, troubled, very, it's like, yeah, she's like the hero of this movie, but at the same time, like she has baggage. And that's something that's super cool to like deal with a real life situation.
Totally. What about you, Greg? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. It's one thing to survive, I think, a situation like that, but it's, to where maybe the guy that's locked up is in jail forever, or maybe he's dead or he's passed on. But in this movie, Michael Myers still lives and he's still supernatural. What do you think that's like for Laurie? Remember when they were saying, oh, he's being transferred? She goes, oh yeah, tomorrow at 7 a.m. Like she's keeping tabs on his status at all times. Like, that's crazy making to like think that your life is revolving around an inmate, hundreds of miles away, locked up. So that's insane. And I think, yeah, Rob, what you said was right. There's kind of a theme of like what trauma does to you and like the impact it has on your life. Like probably the worst trauma I've ever experienced is just having, like in terms of being violated in some way, is just having my things broken into, like my car broken into, a number of times, things being stolen from me. That's the worst that it's got for me. And I can tell you, even something small as that and minor as that impacts you. You become paranoid. You lock your car every time. Everybody that you look at looks like somebody that could potentially steal from you. So imagine if you survive a situation where your life is at risk, or the people around you were killed and you made it. So her portrayal was just spot on, and it was like the direction that you said, Rob, where she took it to the opposite way. she decided to do something about it and become hard and become a badass and, defensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you put booby traps in your car, Greg? Or trap somebody in and burn them alive?
Oh my God. I did stuff. I won't even talk about it on this pod, but I did some stuff. Yeah.
Oh my God. Let's not forget to ask him when this is over.
Yeah, we'll eventually put it out there one day when we get Patreon. We can put it on the Conjecturing After Dark. Yeah.
Oh my God. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to kind of follow up with what you guys are saying, I think this goes right into just talking about the characters and the acting. And I got to say, just off the bat, Jamie Lee Curtis, we've kind of already brought this up as far as her character and her acting, but really amazing. I mean, night and day, how she was 40 years ago at 1978. She was kind of naive. She was the quote unquote smart girl who didn't really date. And now she's just this. Well, first of all, she's agoraphobic. Seems like the only time she does leave the house is to track Michael. She knows everything about him. She knows everything there is to know about survival and how to use every weapon under the sun and how to make her house like a safe house and a trap. I just thought that was so good. And Jamie Lee Curtis just nails it. I think she just nails it. I mean, oh my God, it's so incredible. So do you guys want to kind of talk about either more about Jamie Lee Curtis or maybe call out some other characters or acting?
Definitely have to talk about Jamie real quick. It's like, yeah, she's so good in this movie. So, I mean, like you said, the polar opposite of who she was in the original movie. I mean, she was a child in the original movie. She was a child. And now she's, a grizzled old veteran. She doesn't take shit from anybody, and she's gonna like do what she has to do to not only make herself safe, but she sadly risks a lot of things to make sure her family is safe.
Yes.
And how far she would go to do certain things for her family, crossing certain lines to her daughter and the state and stuff like that is just crazy to think. And I mean, like I wouldn't say like I would probably maybe do the same thing. I don't know. But that's just like so crazy. But Jamie Lee pulls it off flawlessly in this movie. Like you don't ever once think like, oh, it's not the same character. You know what I mean? And I think that's the biggest thing you're trying to take away from this is like, yes, she's a great actress, but like, do you feel this is Laurie Strode, 40 years later? And you totally feel that. Yeah.
Yeah, you absolutely do. She's the best thing about this movie. And like you said, Rob, it's the continuity of like, like this movie wipes away every movie before it except for the first one. So knowing that, you can't help but imagine who she was in the first one and who she is now, and imagine, okay, well, in 40 years' time, who might that person be? And she portrays it perfectly. When the two journalists roll up to her house, start, picking and prodding at her history, she kind of she lets them in. She accepts her $3,000 payment, which is hilarious. And she barely tells them anything. And she's like, there's nothing to learn from this. I think there was an opportunity for her to be over the top and like a Sarah Connor, like, crazy Rambo type. And she didn't do that. She was, like you said, Rob, like a grizzled old vet, like within her capacity, within her age, what was she able to do? And how was she able to mold her life knowing that Michael Myers might one day come back after? And from the beginning of the movie to the end, it was, that was perfect. There was one scene where, so Judy Greer, Karen, I guess she walks into the house and she notices that the door was ajar. And Laurie comes down and she goes, "Gotcha!" Like pointing at her with like a finger gun. And she goes, "You're dead.
You're dead.
You're dead." I love that line.
I love it too.
It's so perfect. It's like the Jedi. It's like saying, "Have you forgotten everything that I've taught you?"
Yeah.
And she doesn't do it in a very ham-fisted way. It's just so perfect because then she moves on to the next thing. You got to find your daughter. You have to like hide. You have to. It was perfect.
That's amazing. I was totally going to call out that same scene. It was one of my favorite. And I, like you said, I just felt like it was done. She's so genuine in that moment. Like, well, you fucked up there, Yes. So great. So kind of talking about her daughter, how did you guys feel about her daughter, Karen? Rob, like, what did you think of that character?
I thought it was fun. I really wanted her name to be Jamie though. Like it, I thought like, I know you're taking away all the continuity from the other movies, but like for how many Easter eggs this fucking movie has, like you couldn't have added one more egg to that mix and just made her Jamie. I read too that the original first script, her name was Jamie. They don't really ever say why they changed the name. I don't know. I'm not sure, but that was one thing when I was like, oh, her name's not Jamie. But as far as the actress and what she did, I thought she was solid. I thought she was solid in this movie. I thought for what she needs to do in this movie and trying to portray a very like troubled relationship with her mother, I thought it was pretty spot on. The couple of scenes where she's like literally lying to her own daughter, Jane, Laurie's granddaughter, about like talking to her. I thought it was really great. Like you could see on her face she's lying, and to see that, I was like, oh, that's really good. So I thought she was solid in this movie.
Yeah, for sure. What about you, Greg? You're shaking. You're like, praise Jesus right now over
Praise
there.
Jesus.
So.
I have nothing to add. Everything Rob said was exactly what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, obviously Jamie Lee is just so badass. She's the boss ass bitch of this film. But I gotta say, I came dressed as her. We're not there yet. We'll talk about the ending when we get there. But I thought Karen's character and just the progression of what you see from her, and then in comparison to how she is in the end. Oh my God, flawless for me, you guys. I thought she was amazing. And then moving on, I do like her daughter. So Laurie Strode's granddaughter, Allison, I thought she was great too. I thought she was very likable. I thought she was smart. You know me, I like to call out when I feel like you're writing smart women in a script. And I think that this movie had them all. I mean, that's, they all knew what to do. And I thought the acting there was great. Do you guys have any call outs as far as that actress or Allison and any scenes that she had?
I mean, just the, like you said, I mean, it's so natural. This young actress that plays the granddaughter, she did seem very natural in all the scenes. I never once thought she was overacting at all. I never once thought like, oh, this character wouldn't say that, the granddaughter wouldn't say that, she clearly loves her grandma. She loves, Laurie. She the most sympathizes with what she's went through, but at the same time is still trying to kick her grandma in the butt of like, you need to move on.
What about you, Greg? How did you like Allison's character?
I thought the three primary female actresses in this movie were the best actors, especially like you said, Andy Matichak. There was a lot going on in this movie, and if you're her, you have to imagine that it's tough to play so many roles. Like you're a friend, you're also a girlfriend, you're also a daughter, you're the granddaughter, and she's
a victim.
A victim. There's so many different hats that she has to put on, and that sounds difficult, but she handles the whole thing pretty gracefully, and I didn't see any slip ups, and she handled her job in this movie really well.
Yeah, I agree. I have to point out that, so obviously when we're watching this movie, we're waiting for the scene when Laurie Strode's character and Michael Myers see each other for the first time. I think you guys all remember that scene. I mean, it's just, it's like, oh my God, it's so powerful. I think it said a lot when I had that same feeling when Allison, Laurie's granddaughter, who has never seen or met Michael Myers, she also has that scene where she runs into him for the first time. And it is so effective. It's like she knows who he is and she knows what he means for that family. And just like the emotions and just the looks that she's giving, I was like, this was almost more like the hairs on my arms raised higher with this scene than it did when Laurie and Michael saw each other for the first time.
That's a great point. I really felt that moment because it's like,
yes.
Imagine not having gone through it, but like this is the story that your family has told you over and over and over again, and suddenly this mythical figure has come to life. And in the same scene, her friend has been killed and he's hanging on the gate, and Michael Myers is right there. Like the horror in her scream was so genuine.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that something we've heard a lot about in past episodes and something they've, John Carpenter wanted to do, but they didn't let him, was, kind of make Michael Myers more of a, like a ghost or the actual boogeyman. And I think this movie does it really well with the granddaughter, because like you said, she's never met him before. She's only heard the tales. So the fact that like when she actually gets to see him for the first time, it's like super powerful because it's like she's been hearing these like monstrous things. He is the boogeyman. He is not like a real figure yet in her life. He's just a figment of her imagination. And when she actually sees him, it's like super, super powerful. Yeah.
Totally. All right, let's talk about Michael. Rob, I want to hear your thoughts about this new Michael Myers here.
Yeah. This is more or less, you want to call him a new Michael, a different Michael, a reimagined Michael, whatever. He's very true to the original. which I think is like the main thing I convey in this movie so much, is that these guys, David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, like, really wanted to make like a direct sequel to the original, down to like Michael himself, his mannerisms, the way he moves. He doesn't have fucking giant shoulder pads like they did in fucking Halloween 4, which is so stupid. The mask itself looks fucking awesome. And I think it's kind of cool, like you said, Laura, the fact that they have like a new actor portraying Michael, which I know that he, studied under Nick Castle, saying that like Nick Castle kind of gave him some pointers. He definitely reviewed all the previous incarnations of himself in this movie. And then also, like, I read something that he actually went and like did a lot of research into killers and people with like mental disabilities that had been dormant for a long time, and like what that would do to like atrophy, or like what would that do to their bodies, and like how ferocious they would be if they ever got out. So like he did a lot of research, this actor now, that I thought was really cool and really well done, that really came off so perfectly for this quote unquote new Michael in this movie. I think he does a great job. And just the fact that you have Nick Castle doing the breathing, I think to me that was what like put it over the top, was almost to the fact of like, I totally feel, like we said, you feel that Laurie Strode is this Laurie Strode from the original. And I feel like this is the first Halloween I've watched since we reviewed all these where we're like, I feel like this is Michael. Like this is the OG. This is the continuation of this character. The other movies we watched, there's always something a little bit off that somebody tried to tweak, or somebody thought like this would be a new spin we can do. But this is the first time where they actually went back to the original, and this worked so well. I really like the Michael overall.
Yeah. What did you think, Greg?
To me, he was the scariest of all the movies, and in some ways, I think scarier than the original to me. I really loved his mask. Was great. It was grimy. You can see it in my background here. It's got scratches, wrinkles. It kind of personifies his old age now, because he's what, 40, 50, 60?
He's 61.
Old. He's 61, which that in itself makes it so menacing. The fact that you have a 61-year-old guy with juggernaut strength, it adds this different feel to it. It's like, okay, he's really this insane evil being. And then the way that I think some of the camera work follows Michael around, when you see him, when Laurie sees him for the first time, right? He's in a window in the second floor of a house, and the way that he walks kind of like upright, and he just lumbers, and it's very true to the original. And the way that he goes from across the visual space of a window and down the stairs, just not that he's taking his time, but that he just knows that nothing can stop him, that he's just going to kill, was so scary. And then when he starts going through the neighborhood, that I haven't seen a lot of the other movies like you guys have, so I don't know if this was the first time that it was done, but it seemed like it was, to where you had that camera shot sort of over his shoulder or behind him, and watching him just make his way through the neighborhood and just start killing people. And it was like nothing to him. And he just did it so mindlessly. And there was no second thought to it, it seemed. And to me, he was the scariest Michael Myers of all the other movies.
Did anybody notice like the butcher knives used in this movie were like enormously big? Like they should have been like something you get at like a carnival. They were so giant.
I didn't notice it.
You didn't notice it? How giant the butcher knife was? Like she's cutting like a whole fucking watermelon with one swipe, like it's a samurai sword.
I didn't notice that either.
I didn't notice it, but actually now that you say that, the scenes where Michael is able to stab like a dude to a wall.
Yeah.
I think have we talked about this in previous episodes?
I don't think so, no.
I know that I noticed in this one that when they zoomed in, there was almost like a gap between the guy, the knife, the wall. And I'm like, man, that must have been a really long ass knife for it to go through your body, then have a gap, then into the wall, enough to hold your dead weight up. I mean, you're right. That's like a samurai sword.
Yeah. I just thought it was really weird. Like there's certain shots where it's like, wow, that knife is too big. It's insane. It's like it's a comical knife. Like what is happening here,
Yeah. Greg, I wanted to ask you a question. So one of our running things that we talk about is how he gets from point A to point B. We made a big joke about it in our last week's episode. Do you feel like in this movie, even though we still don't see him technically get from point A to point B, do you feel like they did it so, at least, okay, this is my opinion. They did it so well. I feel like I'm not questioning how he got places. I feel like scenes that were connecting other scenes were the right length to where it made sense. And I totally want to know if that, I feel like if I were
100%.
watching from your eyes, I would be like, yes. Yes, this is great.
That scene where she first turns the corner and shoots him with the rifle, and she's kind of distracted, and he turns the corner of the house, and they lose track of him. It makes sense. He kind of uses the shadows to his advantage, and the only time that you see him actually use speed is where he tries to ambush her at the end. Mm-hmm. In the room with all of the mannequins. And that's the fastest you actually see him move, it seems.
Yeah.
But it's in a very small, confined space. But other than that, you just see him just kind of moving from point A to point B. And they actually show it, and they film it, and it's totally believable. So, yeah, I didn't think about that, but you're absolutely right.
Yeah. I kind of love that about this. I also love how, Michael is actually being hunted in the end by Laurie.
Yeah.
And I love how some shots are showing him confused. Where did Laurie go? Where did Karen and Allison go? He's there's a single moment where he's looking around. And I think it's really interesting because normally in every other horror movie I've seen where you see that side of a killer, you're no longer scared. Right? It takes out all of that fear. Yet I feel like they did such a good job in this film where I was still afraid of him. I still think he's scary, Michael Myers, but I loved also being able to see that side. So they really nailed that balance, I felt like.
Really good point, Laura, because I didn't think about that at all in this movie. The fact that, showing the fact that Michael is being hunted, or Michael is being, led to where he needs to be, not by his own decision, by where Laurie wants him to be. Yeah.
Okay, well then let's get into I think the biggest part of this review and this episode, and that's going to be what we keep talking about, the Easter eggs. Not only the comparisons to the original, which there are so many, to the 1978, but also, even though we are supposed to forget about all the other sequels in the franchise, they do truly throw out an Easter egg to all of the movies. And so I'd love you guys to kind of call out what you saw, any comparisons, what you think might be Easter eggs, and then I can kind of fill in the gaps because I have a huge list. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I got like maybe the most obvious ones then, because maybe I didn't get like a call out to H2O. Like, I don't know what that would be, but I definitely, the first one I noted down because I watched this movie twice. One, because it's really well done, and two, just because like I know there was so many Easter eggs. I want to make sure I go back and get them all jotted down. I think one of the first ones I noticed was the scene where the granddaughter, was it Allison? I don't want to keep saying granddaughter.
Yeah,
Allison is inside the school, and it's exactly the same shot of Laurie in her classroom. She's in the back corner. And she looks outside, and in the original, it's Michael standing there. And then this one, it's Laurie standing there. And that's a running theme with this whole movie, is reversing what happened in the original, but making Laurie be the one that's doing it. And every time they did it, it like made my heart flutter. It was like so awesome, like one, I talked a little bit, about comparing this somewhat to Rob Zombie, because he kind of does do a reimagining. And he has a lot of Easter eggs in that movie to the original. I think the biggest difference is this movie, they do it with a twist. And I think the twist is what you love. You don't want to see the exact same scene. Like if it would have just been Michael standing there, it would have been like, oh, cool, nice Easter egg. But the fact that it's a call out, but it's Laurie, makes you like it even more, because it's like, wow, that's really cool. I mean, the other one I called out, of course, Laurie talked about, is the sheet gag. The sheet gag when the babysitter gets killed and Michael puts the sheet over the babysitter, cuts the holes in the head again. This movie, it was not like a random boyfriend making that sheet. So he cut those eyes out. With a butcher knife in this one. That's a cool call out. Did you guys notice too? I wanted to ask you, did you guys notice that Michael put the pumpkin inside the fish tank?
Yeah.
Next to her.
That's a dick move.
Yeah, it was so weird. Yeah.
Like, why on top of everything would you do that?
I kept thinking to myself, like a behind the scenes footage of like Michael putting in and he's like chuckling to himself, like, oh, like this is gonna be funny. Cause like why would you do that? It's so weird. But yeah. The sheet gag is a good call. I love that one. Stabbing the boyfriend against the wall is another great call out to the OG original one. That's a good call out. Another one when you're getting towards the end of the movie, of course, you have when Laurie falls off the roof herself.
Yeah.
You know, then you have the whole thing where Michael looks back and she's gone now.
I love it. Yeah.
That's a great one. And then I think my favorite one, and it might be my favorite scene in this whole movie, is the end of this movie when they're like trying to beat the shit out of Michael Myers and you think Laurie's gone and Laurie's face appears behind him out of the darkness.
Yep.
Out of the shadows.
Great callback to the original and him in the door frame. And she comes out like that was just epic. Like, I feel like if this movie would have been complete garbage, that scene alone would have been like, I give you 3 stars. Just such a great fucking scene. I love that one. Yeah. That's all I got, Laura. I don't know what other ones you got.
Okay. I'm going to try to do these really quick, but I really feel like these need to all be mentioned. I mean, it's so big. So yeah, I think Rob, you called out like the big main ones. More from the original Halloween. You have the Haddenfield Stroll, the 3 teenagers that are walking down the street, one of them being Allison and, you know, her friend's boyfriend. Going back to the classroom scene, you don't actually see the teacher, but you hear the voice. That voice is none other than PJ Souls, who plays Linda from the original Halloween.
Which one was Linda? Is that the one that went cross-eyed?
The booby one.
Oh, the boobies?
Boobies.
I think she did go, yeah.
They both went cross-eyed.
Fucking, okay. Okay, do you guys remember the scene where Allison is out to dinner with her parents and her boyfriend Cameron, and the dad mentions something about how Cameron's dad was like troubled or something? His name was Lonnie, I believe.
Yeah,
I sold them peyote and they were smoking.
I wrote this one down too, Laura. Like, I figured this one out too. I didn't put it in the things, but it's supposed to be what? It's supposed to be Lonnie from the original movie, right?
Yeah. So when Tommy Doyle is getting bullied, Lonnie is the main kid bullying him. That's Cameron's dad, which I think is great because it just kind of takes, not only is it a big Easter egg, but it also just shows you, and I know this is one of our gripes, that these families just fucking live and stay in Haddenfield. No one moves out. You know, they're all connected. So I thought that was a really cool call out.
If you remember too, Lonnie is also the one that the original Dr. Loomis yelled at to get away from the house.
Yes.
Yeah. He was
Lonnie!
like, Lonnie, get your ass away from there. Yeah.
Yep. And Rob, I'm actually really surprised that you didn't mention this one, but in this movie, Laurie Strode refers to Michael Myers as the Shape. She says it out loud, which is the first time it's actually spoken out loud in a movie, even though that's how Michael is credited in the original Halloween.
Yeah. I think he's credited in this one too, right? As a Shape, right?
Yeah. But I mean, the fact that she says it, she says it at that dinner scene. And then there's a bunch of other small ones. Just the fact that there's a Halloween dance, you know, that was same as the original. The scene where the inmates are all kind of roaming the streets in the dark at night. Actually, this was the first Halloween movie to actually have Michael kill a young kid. That was a little shocking. But in that scene, the kid's death is pretty much exactly the same as Annie's death, getting, you know, like strangled in a car. So as much as I didn't love to see that, I was happy that at least his death wasn't in vain, quote unquote, like it was an Easter egg in itself.
They traded a child's death for an animal death. There's no animals in this movie, but a child dies.
Oh my God, you're right. I didn't even think about that.
They're like, we got to kill something innocent. It can't be a dog anymore. We got to do a kid.
Oh man. And then again, they say when they talk about his murders from the first one, they say he was the one behind the babysitter murders. And I don't know if you guys read this, but that was actually what Halloween, the original, was supposed to be called. It was supposed to be called the Babysitter Murders, but then they changed it later to Halloween because they wanted to have it come out closer to Halloween.
Yeah.
It's a pretty shocking title. Babysitter.
Yeah, I know. Totally. But it also makes sense.
Yeah. I think the only other one, Laura, that I did write down that I didn't really call out was the whole conversation with Annie and her 2 friends about asking her, like, hey, wasn't Michael your grandma's brother? And they have a whole line of saying like, no, like that was just something people made up to make themselves feel better. I think kind of like taking that out of the storyline, which I thought was a nice touch.
I think it was needed because I think I actually, going back to what you said about Karen not being named Jamie, I think the choice behind it was so that people wouldn't get confused with those sequels that they're trying to completely discount.
Yeah.
So, that's another one.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, the whole fact that they show the graveyard scene with Judith Myers' headstone.
Mm-hmm.
So those are all kind of from the original, but there are actually slight Easter eggs from all the other sequels. So if you guys are down, I can go through them really quick. All right. So the Easter egg from Halloween 2, we have a lady in the robe who gets killed, and we have a lady who's on the phone learning about the murders, who then Michael goes into the house and kills them. That is a direct 2 scenes from Halloween 2. From Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, we have a real quick scene where young kids are shown running around in the same silver shamrock masks. From Halloween 4, we have almost scene by scene the exact same way he gets his outfit from the garage. From Halloween 5, we have a couple. We have the fact that Allison has another shitty-ass boyfriend who cheats on her. We have the 2 quote-unquote comedy cops again, and we also have a very quick head honk scene where someone's head hits the steering wheel. From Halloween 6, the twist that Dr. Wynn, who's the chief administrator of Smith Grove Sanitarium, where Michael spent his childhood, has actually been evil all along. And in this one, we've got Dr. Sartain willing to murder police officers to keep Michael on the streets. From H2O, we have the dirty bathroom gas station scene. Also, one of Laurie's taglines in H2O, which gets brought out multiple times in this, is "Do as I say." And also the fact that Laurie loves pounding some red wine. From Resurrection, I think because that is probably the worst Halloween movie in the franchise, there's a scene where Aaron, the journalist, he makes eye contact with an old lady in a Resurrection church van. From Zombies First, there is also the dirty bathroom and pretty much the entire truck stop garage scene again. And then from Zombies sequel, 2009, there's a scene where 2 young boys bump into Michael, and one actually says, "Are you a giant?" And then also there's a major head stomping kill, which they totally took and have in this one as well. Woo!
Wow. Good job, Laura.
Fast.
Good job, Laura. Wow. So many.
Drink some water.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, maybe I should drink some water.
That's funny.
All right. How about the directing of this film? Do you guys have any scenes you want to call out? Rob, you're like our guru of directed shots.
It's like
You're like, I could go on for 3 hours.
It's like this whole movie is like an hour and 45 minutes, and you could probably say an hour and 43 minutes are well directed. It's like the whole movie is so well directed. I mean, some of the scenes that I really love. I already talked about the scene where Laurie comes out of the shadows. I think that's like my most favorite epic scene in this movie. It's so well directed. But another one I wanted to shout out, because I thought it was really cool. It kind of goes back to what Greg was talking about of showing Michael moving within space, but not showing you too much or too little. Like a perfect middle ground is the scene where Michael kills the chubby friend, the double kid, whatever he's called. And they have motion sensor lights in the backyard. Genius. And they do such a great job of Michael standing at a distance. The lights go off, the lights come back on. He's closer now. Then the lights go off again. Then they come back on and he's like right up on you. And I thought like that's just like a perfect directed scene of building tension in a moment, but also a great way to show movement of Michael within a frame, but not show him physically moving. And I feel like that's the OG like storyboard of John Carpenter, is like showing him within the OG movie moving, but not showing him moving too much or too little, like the perfect balance. And that's one thing this movie does consistently. It melds a perfect balance with the OG original, what they want, and with like new age cinema.
Yeah. What about you, Greg? Do you have anything to add?
Yeah, the only, pretty much like what Rob said, like 99% of the movie is just very well directed. But one thing that I really wish that they would have done was I had so many problems with the decisions that Laurie was making when Michael Myers came to the house, like standing next to the door when he could easily just reach through and choke her, or when they were in the panic room and she decided to just blast a hole through the floor at nothing, like giving away their position in the basement when they didn't have to do that. I was like yelling at the screen, like, what are you doing? So many times, like walking toward a closed closet a couple of times, until you get toward the end and you realize that this was all intentional, that she was leading him into the trap. And the problem is, I almost wish that you would have seen something like maybe it flashed back and you see that she did it intentionally to lure him closer, rather than because she was making mistakes. Because otherwise I was still left with that lingering feeling of like, I hate how she spent 40 years training, but she made all these dumb mistakes. I wish they would have like tightened up that bridge a little closer. So it made me realize it.
Yeah, I mean, I literally wrote that in my notes too. Like, there's certain, like, you're halfway through this movie, Laurie's at her new her compound with her daughter, and I literally put in my notes like, why are there no booby traps? Like, you've had 40 years to plan for this. Why haven't you like done a better job other than lights and guns until you get to the end and you're like, oh shit, you built the ultimate booby trap. Good for you. Like, let me scratch it out of my notebook, but it's like, yeah, they don't reveal that until the end. And like you're talking about, Greg, the part where she shoots the ceiling, I'm the same as you. I'm like, why are you doing that? You're giving away your position until the end. And you're like, oh shit, like you are totally in control this whole fucking time. Even the daughter, Judy Greer, has a great end moment where the same exact thing where like you think she's doing one thing and she's like, no, this was the plan since I've been 10. You know what I mean? Like, this is what we've been waiting for 40 years. But until you hit that moment, you're questioning things, which I think is super cool.
Oh man. Wow. I have a lot of comments on everything that you guys just said. I gotta tell you, I kind of disagree on just, not thinking that they bridged that gap, because I actually think it was great that you're like confused and wondering why people are doing something. And then there's a big reveal. It's a twist. And usually that makes you feel good. Like, oh shit. Not only do I have the answer I was looking for, but it's nice when we can be surprised in movies. If you guess something from the beginning, it's not as fun of an experience.
Yeah.
So yeah. I thought that was flawless. And we kind of have already been talking about the ending. And I know that Rob has mentioned, a scene from the ending that's his absolute favorite scene. I got to tell you, the scene with Karen is my favorite scene of this movie. Up until this point, she has been, rejecting her mother's ways. Like, you're crazy. I don't want anything to do with this. I have my life now with my husband and my daughter, and none of this means anything to me. And she's pretty shaken up when all of this goes down and she's brought to Laurie's compound, and, there's a scene where she's crying in her room, and then she's down in the bunker and she's crying and she's really shook. And then there's a scene where it's just her and her daughter, and we don't know where Laurie is. And she looks over at the weapons that Laurie has and she sees her initials. And these are like 10-year-old initials. KS, Karen Strode. And you just know in that moment something clicks, like, oh, fuck, here I go. Like, this is what I've been trained to do. Like Rob said, This is the plan since I was 10. And then even still, she grabs a gun and then she's freaking out. She's like, Mom, I can't do this. I need your help. And you're like, fuck, Karen, pull it together. What are you doing?
What a Karen.
What a Karen. But then in that moment, you see Michael and her face completely changes in a snap. And she goes, gotcha. Almost like it's a game. You guys, I have goosebumps thinking about it right now.
I can see the goosebumps. They're very visible.
My God, that was my ultimate favorite scene. And then directly after that is Rob's scene where, also fucking amazing. Jamie Lee Curtis, just her face comes out of the shadows out of nowhere. And she's like, what does she say? Happy Halloween, Michael.
Yeah. So great. I know, because I was gonna ask you, Laura, because that's one thing you talked about on multiple of these Halloween episodes of the the final girl not being that great until the end. Like when they pull it together at the end, like Halloween 4, Mm-hmm. Did you feel that before this scene with Karen? Did you feel like she was not that great until that moment, and then you're like, oh shit, I love you?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's tough because I'd already seen this once before, so I already knew what was coming on this second rewatch. But I think maybe the first time I watched it, I was thinking, kind of like what you guys were thinking. Oh man, he's coming. You better pull your shit together. Like, but I think Judy Greer is a good actress though, and I don't think I've ever seen her in horror before. So I was very pleasantly surprised that she was, a great character, great acting all the way through. And then at the end, it was like, it just got better and I wasn't expecting it. Oh, good.
Nice.
I have a boner.
Is she going on your Mount Rushmore? Just from that one scene?
Shit. She might. Yeah. Well, do you guys want to get into more positives and negatives? I mean, I feel like we actually have had a good mix, but any that you haven't called out already, maybe? Rob?
I mean, you definitely do have to talk about music. You do have to talk about the music. Like we said in the beginning, John Carpenter comes back to the franchise to score this movie with his son and his godson, which is super cool. So I felt the music was really well done. I felt like it was a good, like, to me, this whole movie, going back to what I said before, is such a good meld of the original and like new modern filmmaking. And that goes back to the music too. Like the music, there's certain points where, it's just Michael doing something. So it's very like old school feeling, very original theme. And then there's certain scenes where it's like the kids talking and it'll be like a modern theme. But it doesn't feel like out of place like it did in, I keep mentioning this, but the Rob Zombie Halloween movie.
Yeah.
Where it just never felt correct. It just felt out of place in situations. And this movie, every time the music hit in a moment, it felt perfect for that scene. And it was like, bam, John Carpenter, you're the best. You know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
What about you, Greg?
Yeah, they totally make good use of those ominous, haunting horns that you hear in a lot of these new movies. When Michael Myers pops up, or when he brandishes a knife, and you hear that. It's just, and then the Halloween synth lightly plays in the back. It was all the music. I agree with you, Rob. It's all the music that I wish I would have heard in the previous versions that were trying to borrow from the original theme and make it more modern, but just didn't do it right. But this movie just nailed it. Yeah.
And one more thing I just want to mention, kind of speaking on the music, is you have to talk about the counterbalance of the use of silence in this movie. For the movie being so well scored, there are a lot of scenes in this movie that are just silent, to where you're hearing nothing but, whether it's the breathing from like the original movie, or it's just a scene that's supposed to be quiet. You're not supposed to hear anything, so you can like feel the scene in itself, if that makes any sense to you. It's great to add music to a scene that can also build tension, can build suspense, but the lack of sound can also make you feel at home in the moment, because in reality, there is not soundtracks to our lives. So when you're sitting at home and you're doing nothing, you hear silence. And so like it makes you feel at home, and it makes you feel real in like a real world setting. So I thought this movie did a great job with the work of silence, which goes back to the original, because that's what they did so well in the original. There's so many quiet moments, and then when it needs to ramp up, it does. So yeah, it's just a great work overall for the music and the work of silence, which I think goes back more to directing, but probably the same thing with John Carpenter involved.
Yeah, that scene where Oscar is in that old man's yard and the motion sensor lights come on, that's absolute silence, except for the clicking of the lights going on and off. Oh my God, that got me. That was like, to me, that was the most brilliant use of silence in the whole movie.
Yeah, I totally agree. The music was one of my favorite parts, and everything you just called out about the silence, like you nailed it. That's something I didn't really put my finger on until now, and it's crazy. And I just, talking about positives, because obviously we all have a lot from this movie, but just going back to the Easter eggs, I mean, I think the thing with having this 40-year gap and all of these sequels in between, yes, they've made it clear that we're forgetting about all these other sequels. So I think that they had a really good opportunity to say, hey, there have been a lot of Halloween sequels. We know what worked. We know what didn't work. It wasn't even like they were like, let's try again. They were like, we got this. We've nailed it. And I love how there were so many Easter eggs in this film. So if you're a big fan, it's almost like you're just smiling through the whole movie. You're in on all of these inside jokes that maybe other people aren't in on. And that's great and all. But the fact that they've paired that with actually a good story and good acting, I don't think I've ever seen the 2 and 2 go hand in hand.
No, usually it's forced, and it seems like they're doing a fan service to people.
Exactly. But this was actually a good freaking movie. And so I just think that they've just really nailed the balance of so many different aspects of this. And yeah. Do you guys have any other negatives about this movie?
The main problem I had was that I felt like the comedy was very hit or miss to me. When they were subtle about it, I felt like it worked perfectly. Like there was that line where the new sheriff, they arrive at Vicky and Dave's house after they've been killed, and basically everybody's congregating there. And Dr. Sartain rolls up, and the sheriff says to him, "You sit still." And he's already sitting down, and he goes, "Well, I was sitting still already. What do you mean?" It was very simple, like just very lighthearted, like slapstick humor, but I love that. But then there were so many lines that I thought they were not subtle at all, and it rubbed me the wrong way, and it just felt goofy. Like the dad in the beginning when they're in the kitchen, and then he goes, "Oh man, I got peanut butter on my penis." Like I thought,
oh, that was weird. I forgot about that. Yeah.
I'm like what?
Maybe that was a callback to Rob Zombie's opening of his movie and talking about wieners and jacking off on people and stuff.
That was an Easter egg, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Wait, I got to cut in and just mention. No, actually, none of us have mentioned the dad and the fact that he dies. Brooke, my husband Brooks, he was like, the only comment he had after watching this movie was, no one even like cares that the dad just died. And I was like,
yeah, I was thinking that.
Nobody cared.
Yeah, not even at the end where they're like in the truck together and she doesn't look over and be like, hey, did anybody see Dave? Like,
yeah.
where is he? Like,
yeah.
Did he make it? Where is he? She's just like, whatever, he's kind of a tool.
Oh man. Yeah. Sorry, Greg. Keep going.
No, it's okay. Again, just more nitpicky stuff, but I always have to get these off my chest just because it feels like catharsis for me. And then really just the only one thing that really just I almost grinded my gears was the scene with like the two cops arguing about the sandwich and the brownies. Like to me that felt like
that was an Easter egg though, and you've never seen Halloween 5.
To me, that was okay. If it was an Easter egg, it was an Easter egg out of Superbad because it felt like the two cops were literally just like
Superbad.
This is the problem. Is like I feel like in horror movies, and I actually had this same gripe with Event Horizon. I personally believe that in order to balance humor with horror, it has to feel organic. In this scene where the two cops were like joking to each other about their sandwiches, they're almost facing each other as if they're like reenacting a play. It seemed like you're on duty, like law enforcement. You have this thing called situational awareness, to where you may be multitasking with other things, but you have your eye on your duty, right? You know what's going on. It would have felt more natural and normal to me if they were like serious. Right. Mm-hmm. And like looking at the road. And then it was like, I wanted the joke to be secondary. They put too much energy into that joke. It was actually funny. And I think in another context, it would have been hilarious. I laughed at what they were saying, but I thought it's still out of place. Like, you know that you're trying to do like watch on the most dangerous man in your city in the last 40 years. Like, why are you joking about the sandwiches? Like, I don't know. I didn't know whether to take it seriously or whether to like laugh. And I don't want that. I want to take the movie as a horror movie seriously all the way, unless we're talking intentional comedy, Shaun of the Dead or Zombieland. But this is like, I want to take it seriously, but like kind of laugh on the side along the way. And like, this is one example that took me out. So
yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest negatives. We'll get into Rotten Tomato scores, I think, in a little bit, kind of towards the end here a bit. But that's one of the biggest like negatives of people that kind of don't like this movie or give it a rotten rating is like they didn't like the humor aspect.
Really?
They didn't like that aspect of it, which I agree with Greg in certain scenes, like the cop scene in the sandwich. Like I chuckled, like I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a great scene. It was just kind of like, okay. But the thing like you have to understand, Greg, is the only reason these comedic scenes are in here is to give you a break as a viewer. Like you need the pacing of this movie to like take a breath. And for coming from like two guys that are very comedic driven, to them taking a breath from action and killing is going to be a comedic funny scene. It's not going to be two characters sitting around talking about their history or their life or something super deep and emotional. It's going to be a probably funny moment, you know? So like I understand why they did it. Do I think all of them landed? No. I probably would agree with Greg, like, I mean, we're talking about super nitpicky things in this movie because this movie is really, really good and I really like it a lot. But I would agree with Greg. Some of the humor didn't land on me either. You know, like I understand why you're doing it and I understand the need for it for pacing reasons. But could it have been a funnier scene? Probably, especially knowing like Danny McBride involved. And I felt like the little like devil kid character was like supposed to be like this comedic kind of funny guy, you know, and he's like talking about like, oh, like the girls were rubbing on me, I had a boner and they were feeding me guacamole. And like none of that made me laugh. It was just kind of like, okay. But like that stuff, like you're talking about, Greg, I didn't land on me either. You know, like I get why they need it, but I really didn't care for it either. You know, that would be like probably my biggest negative would be some of the humor just doesn't land.
Yeah, I really don't have any negatives. I think I do have one tiny nitpicky thing, and that's just the fact that same kid, the Oscar kid, goes, hey, let's go this way. I know a shortcut. I mean, I just wanted to like throw my hands in the air at that point. Like, don't we all know Shortcuts are no good. No shortcuts.
Shortcut to the end of your life is what it is.
Yeah, like this movie is I think it's very intelligent. So it felt out of place. Like most horror movies, it's, they make a lot of unintelligent decisions and you're like, well, it's a horror movie. This is a trope, right? And we're just kind of along for the journey. I didn't feel like this movie had a lot of those. And so that one scene, I was like, what? Why are we doing this? But again, super nitpicky. I mean,
yeah. I mean, my last point I just want to talk about is like, we got to talk about Dr. Satan, whatever his name is.
Sartain.
The new Dr. Loomis, and like his whole like turn. Like, I don't even know if it worked for me. I don't know
either. Yeah.
And going back to like my opening remarks of like, once he does the turn, he kills the sheriff. It made me think, like, did he release Michael in the beginning of this movie? Because clearly when he kills the sheriff, he wants Michael to find Laurie. That's his whole plan. He wants to see them talk to each other. He wants to see what Michael does. He wants to document it for his research. You know, very similar to the podcast guy in the beginning of this movie, wanting to do whatever it takes to do this for his internal gain, but not give a shit about anybody else. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's the one that actually maybe killed the police officers on the bus and let Michael go. I wouldn't be surprised.
Ooh, well, he lived, right? I mean, and whereas you would have thought that he would have been killed on the bus, but he was like shot by the kid, right?
Or the kid, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. What do you guys think about that? One, like, the character twist, what did you think? And two, like, what do you think about him planning this whole thing?
I think at first when it got through it, when you see him kill the sheriff and you see him put on the mask.
That is a fucked up scene.
It was almost like more messed up when you saw the kid put on the mask in part whatever that was for.
In Rob Zombies,
yeah. And I was actually kind of glad, like when Sartain died, I was like, okay, thank God he's like not the new Michael Myers. But can you imagine, this is like, it reminds me of Event Horizon, right? You have a smart guy who's dedicated to a craft and he never gets to see the fruits of his labor. Okay. And when he finally gets the chance to see it, he'll do absolutely anything to see it through. And in this case, Sartain was that way. Can you imagine being that guy? You're a professional. It's your life's job to rehabilitate people. And you spend 40 years on this guy and you've done nothing. So when he finally sees him leave, I think that he's actually kind of jealous of Michael. The fact that Michael can get instant gratification for himself by killing people, by doing the wrong thing. And here's Dr. Sartain. He's trying to do the right thing by helping people. And he spent 40 years and he cannot get that gratification. I think his turn by saying, I want to know what Michael feels. It's like he's desperate to feel validation for himself and it's for his life's work and his career. So I didn't buy it at first, the first time through, but then afterwards I was thinking about it. I thought, man, I think it actually makes sense because he just wants to feel that and he feels lost and he feels like a failure and he's desperate.
What do you think, Laura? What do you think about all that?
I'm pretty torn on it because I feel like, yes, if he has been working with Michael for all this time and this is your day in, day out job, he's become more or less obsessed with Michael Myers. So do I think that there's a chance that he could kind of lose it a little bit in his own way? And that makes him, especially when he puts on the mask, that makes him want to put on the mask. Like, what does Michael feel? Like, I need to understand. I'm so obsessed. So I get it, but I don't love how he's referred to as the new Loomis and how he, studied under Loomis and was his student, because I feel like, and I'm talking about the original Loomis, not Zombies Loomis, who sucks donkey balls. Yeah.
He studied under Rob Zombie's Loomis.
Donkey balls. I feel like now I got to watch the second one. I don't know what that's about.
I mean, I'm talking about like Donald Pleasance. I feel like that kind of does him dirty. Like Donald Pleasance Loomis would have never fucking done that. So I didn't like it in that sense. I mean, did it fit into the movie? It didn't. I didn't feel like it took up a whole lot of time. Did it fit in? Yes, because also in that scene, Allison, who was trapped in a car with crazy psycho doctor and unconscious Michael Myers, she's able to get away. And the only reason she's able to get away is because right before Michael kills Dr. Sartain, most of his kills are so fast, he doesn't think anything of it. But we have seen, granted in all the other sequels, that when it comes to his doctor, He always has like a brief pause because that's probably the only person he ever feels anything towards. And in that brief pause, that's how she's able to get away. So it did make sense in the movie. But yeah, how I feel about it, I agree with you, Rob. I don't know if it landed on me or not. I'm pretty torn about it.
Yeah, for me, like I'm with Greg with his motives. I believe his motives. I understand it. I get why somebody being with Michael for, I don't know if they said how long he was with Michael, 15 years or 20 years or something like that. I forget, that you would almost get like a, a Nightingale syndrome where you like start to relate and care and, love your patient in a way that it's very unhealthy. So like that, I totally believe. For me, I didn't like the fact that like there was a twist. And I really liked the twist, and then the guy's killed.
The payoff, yeah.
Like I wanted to know so much more. Like I wanted him to like make it to the end and like help Michael. You know what I mean? Like I'm your sidekick now. Something. It was just such a weird. Like I like the twist, but then when he's killed in 5 seconds, I'm like, wait, like what was the point then? Like you had no gratification at all.
That's actually interesting. It would have been interesting if we had the same movie minus that. And Michael, is in this trap at the very end of the movie and it catches on fire, which, also that was an Easter egg from the second one. I don't know if I mentioned that. He like burns. But maybe he survives, but he like is behind bars now. Right. And that was kind of something I actually wanted to ask you. And you just jolted my memory for this ending. Now, when this came out in 2018, that was it. That was the ending. And of course, when I left the theater, where I saw this, I was like, that's it. I'm like, Michael's dead. He's done. But now we know that there's 2 more coming out.
Yeah. They're doing a trilogy.
Yeah. They've already filmed them.
Based on this timeline.
They've already filmed them. And from the stills I've seen, it seems like the next one that's going to come out next year, it literally picks up from the truck with Laurie Strode, Karen Strode, and Allison leaving the scene. So it's like a true continuation. And so part of me is like, how is this not so final? But that's really interesting because if Dr. Sartain lived, then you'd be like, what's going to happen with that?
Exactly. Yeah. If they would have left his death ambiguous, where like you didn't see Michael kill him. And then, the second one they reveal that like he's the one that helped Michael get out. Fucking great. That's fucking genius. And I get everything I want. But the fact that he smashes his head like a pumpkin, he's not coming back from that. He's gone. No. So like it just that whole thing, as much as I really love the Doctor twist, I feel like the payoff was nothing other than like a cool head squash.
Yeah, he's certainly dead. Yeah, for sure. He's not coming back in the next one.
Yeah. I mean, talking about sequels a bit, when they cut back to the basement burning, you don't see Michael standing there.
You don't, right?
He's not there. And I even tried to pause it and look like on the ground or like behind a shovel. You know what I mean? Like he's not in that room. I don't know. Of course, you don't know how he escaped. You're not going to know until later. But like, it's just another thing to be like, they're setting it up, of course, And then like you said, Laura, they've already announced they're doing 2 more. So it's going to be a trilogy. But one thing I really wanted to ask you guys, knowing that 2 more movies are coming of this, and it's very heavy-handed in this movie, they make big emphasis in this movie. I think the new Dr. Loomis clearly states Michael can talk, he just chooses not to. And then the whole thing with the doctor is him wanting to put Laurie and Michael together to see if he will speak. And I feel like they're building to Michael's gonna talk at the end of this franchise. He's gonna say something. And I really want to ask Laura, what would you want him to say?
Oh my God. You just always fucking put me on the spot, man. I don't like it.
You're the Halloween like queen for us. Like you've watched these movies for so long. Like I said, I feel like if they're going to follow the storylines in this movie, which I think they're doing a really great job as directors picking up from 2, do you think they're eventually going to do anything with revealing that they are siblings again?
Oh, yeah. That's not a bad idea.
Because there's another part in this movie, where the new Dr. Loomis, he's talking to the sheriff in the car, and he has like a weird comment where he said something like I've been following Michael my whole life, and he's like, I read all the files. And the way he like says like I read all the files, meaning like he read something that nobody knows. It's very quick, and you probably would have to watch this again and just see that scene. But to me, like they're doing a trilogy and they're gonna like go into kind of like the big tropes of the original franchise. And like the Doctor is kind of saying almost in a scene to me, I know something that nobody knows. Like what else is there other than like they are siblings?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a solid theme throughout the whole movie about him saying something. The whole intro ends with the journalist yelling at him, "Say something."
Yeah.
Then Sartain was talking to Allison in the car, and she said, "He said something to me," and he said, "What did he say to you?" And then in Dr. Sartain's last moments, he yells to Michael, "Say something." This is clearly like a running theme that I wouldn't be surprised if they built it up to him actually speaking in a future movie.
That worries me though, because that there's going to be so much weight on that. And I think that out of everything that I can think of in this time that you've given me to think about it, like the brother sister thing, I would be okay with, but I think a lot of people would be like, okay, but I already kind of thought that, I've seen all the sequels. So that's heavy because they would have to get it right. And that worries me.
I just feel it's so heavy handed in this movie, and they're doing a trilogy. It's going to happen at the end. I just don't know what he's going to say.
So we'll see.
Yeah, it seems like we don't have the answers. But yeah, but if anybody wants to email us in, let us know either what you think Michael's possible last words would be, or what you would want him to say face to face with Laurie at the very end. Like, hit us up, conjecturingpod@gmail or Twitter, Instagram @conjecturingpod. Let us know. We would definitely love reading these things. We got 4 more years before this comes out now with all the pandemic pushbacks. You know what I mean? Who knows when these movies are going to eventually come out? So we got time, guys, All right. Yeah. So that's it for, the review of this movie here. I think we've done a really good job delving into a lot of this movie, probably more than we should have. I might have to edit a lot. We'll see. But not the peanut butter on the penis aside, that's staying in.
No, that's all coming out.
Yeah, no, Greg, sorry. Yeah, so let's do the ratings here. Let's get to the end here. Let's do the ratings. So we got 1 to 5 ratings for this movie. Let's do how many, I'm gonna have to call this out for reference. We didn't really talk about it in the movie, but how many head-o-lanterns are you gonna give this movie? There's a scene in this movie where the 2 cops are killed, and through the window, it's when the husband dies, you see the lights of what looks to be a jack-o'-lantern. So you're like, oh, crazy. He opens the door, and it's one of the cops. Michael had decapitated the guy, carved out his eyes and mouth and nose like a jack-o'-lantern, and shoved the flashlight up his neck hole to make what I call a head-o'-lantern, So let's do 1 to 5. How many head-o'-lanterns are you giving this movie? Let's start with Greg. What do you think, Greg?
I actually think my rating went up a little bit after hearing a lot of the really cool stuff that you guys had to say. I think the part that I strongly agree the most with is what you said, Rob, where this movie seems to have bridged like a really, mixed in the best parts of the original with like modern cinema. So, unfortunately, I had a lot of sticking points that I didn't like. I know that you guys didn't really align with me on those that much, particularly like the off-putting comedy in some areas. So that knocked it down a bit. But I'm going to wind up with, I'm going to say 3.5 head-o'-lanterns.
Wow, 3.5. Okay, that's pretty good. I mean, I forgot to see the Rotten Tomatoes scores. That's probably in line with them a bit here. Let me just reveal them real fast. We got Rotten Tomatoes scores. The critics gave this a 79%.
Wow.
I think is about right there. And then I think more like Greg, the audience gave it a 70%, which to me, I think that's very low. But, and I already talked a little bit about some of the audience reviews were quoting things like they didn't like the humor. There was actually a big demographic of people that were either complaining about this not being a remake of the original, which was confusing. And then the other half of the people that didn't like it were saying, oh, it's too much like the original.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like a lot of people that didn't like this movie, their opinions and standards going into this were one thing and maybe not where it should have been, because it was very interesting to read some of these reviews. But but 70% was audience. So, and that's kind of, it seems like where you're at, Greg, 3.5. It's about right there, I think. So what about you, Laura? What do you think? Laura, how many head-o'-lanterns are you giving this movie?
Man, I'm glad I didn't read any of these reviews, because I think I would have had a whole hour-long grinding gears segment on just Rotten Tomatoes reviews.
I know.
I'm giving this 4.5 Head O' Lanterns.
Wow.
I really liked this movie, and I remember liking it when I first saw it, but I also remember the takeaway being, oh, that was for fans. That so many Easter eggs. So as the years went by, I think I just was like, oh, I liked it because, it took care of the original. And now watching it after watching all of the other ones, most of the other ones up until this point, I'm like, man, this one just fucking kills it. I mean, really, it is so good.
Wow, 4.5. Because you gave the original a perfect 5, correct?
I gave it like a 4.9.
4.99.
Yeah, like just very shy of a full 5. Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, can I adjust my rating?
Greg feels bad.
This is a first. Oh my god.
I know. I've never really done that before, like mid pod, But like I was,
and Greg has gave some shitty ratings, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about like kind of how I judge a lot of these movies or how I look at them, and thinking like the most that this could be, as the original being kind of the pinnacle of it. I think this movie does so much justice. I'd push it to a 4.
Nice.
Yeah. Good job, Greg. You're with the critics now in the 79%. I like it. Good job, Greg. Good job. You're not the a-holes Laura wants to yell at in the audience.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, well, speaking of changing ratings, I'm also going to do, I think, well, it's not a first because Laura's done this on Killer Clowns for a month. She changed her rating 5 times. For me, the original Halloween, I gave a 3.9. Now, I have watched this movie now 4 times leading up to every time we review one of these other Halloween movies. I always watch the original just as like a reference.
Oh my god.
Because
that's
also
dedication.
It is dedication, but like I said, Laura, like I've never seen the original before. So I probably still haven't watched it even a tenth the time as you've seen it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've watched it 4 times now, and every time I watch it, I love it more. So like I'm going to be changing my rating. My original rating was 3.9. I'm going to go to a 4.9.
Yeah.
I'm going to almost a perfect movie. The only reason I'm not giving it a 5 is because the friends acting, I cannot get past. Every time I watch it, it still bugs me. But everything else in that movie, pacing, music, Michael, Laurie, is just perfection. And so like looking back, I'm like, I gotta raise my rating. So I'm going to a 4.9 for the original. So like that's kind of this new standard. So back to this movie now, knowing that I'm changing that to a 4.9 and knowing that they call back so many things, but is not fan service. It's tweaking it enough to make you like call it out as cool, but it pushes the story along in such a smart way. I love it every time they do that. I don't think there was one time where they did an Easter egg that I felt was like out of place.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's so cool. Like I said, my only negative would be, like Greg said, some of the humor did not land on me. So of course, it's not going to be like a perfect rating. But if I'm giving the original a 4.9, to me, I'm with Laura. This is the 4.5.
Wow.
It's right there. This is such a good movie. Like I'm going to be like Laura now. Like I'm going to continuously watch this movie like all the time, like she does, watch all the Halloween movies, it's a great movie. It's 4.5, but yeah. So there you go, Laura. I know this is just making you super happy right now. So she's doing like a dance, everybody. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She looks like one of those gifs where Michael's dancing on like a patio. You
just see a knife in your hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I'm so happy.
Yeah, so that's it. That's our ratings for this week. Very high ratings, very well-made movie. So let's get to next week's movie reveal, Laura. This is going to be the last week of our Conjecturween. I'm sad to see it come. It's been such a cool month-long, Halloween thing, especially for me and Greg. Like we keep saying this, that me and Greg we've never seen these movies. We're the morons wearing dunce hats that didn't know shit going into these movies. And I am just so happy that 1, Laura had this great idea, and 2, like, all the movies she's picked, we've either had like fun bashing it or like an epic time watching it because it's a cool movie. So just want to say thank you, Laura, before we get to the end here.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So speaking of that, what are we doing next week? What are we doing for our last week?
All right, it's the last week. I don't know if this is going to be epic or a fucking failure, but we are going to go backwards in time here a bit, and we are going to end our Conjecturween with the heavily debated Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. So this is a standalone movie in the trilogy or in the franchise, which is why I was comfortable doing this last. And I mean, personally, I saw this once many, many, many years ago, and I had a very strong opinion of it. And so I'm just for myself, I'm super curious to rewatch and see if that changes. And yeah, I just kind of want to see what you guys think about it. I mean, this is something I see on Twitter all the time, and again, it's one of those movies that people have just such strong opinions of for and against. And I just kind of see where we all land on it.
Yeah. It's also the last Carpenter movie that he actually helped produce before this current one. So he has a hand in it. So that also kind of, makes me have a little bit of hope, you know what I mean? Knowing that he has a hand in it, but we'll see. Yeah, so that's cool. I'm excited to watch this one, this solo one, the one that I feel like everybody hated because Michael was not in it. So, especially coming off watching what we just watched, which is like a really cool, comeback of Michael. Now we're going to go to no Michael. It's going to be kind of interesting. But
yeah.
And Greg, you've never seen this one either again, Greg?
No.
Right? Okay. You were watching like
H2O.
Oh, H2O again? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Nice.
I feel like we're going to be done with Conjectureween. It's going to be, Greg's pick, and he's going to be like, I want to watch H2O this week. Like, oh my God.
Nice.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So, if anybody wants to email us in, let us know, any recommendations for movies starting pretty much November. We're going to be going back to our normal routine of picking movies. We're actually talking about possibly maybe letting listeners decide for a week, what we watch, which would be really cool and fun. We've had a couple emails of people saying, hey, you should review this. So we'll see what happens when it comes November. But that'd be something to kind of look forward to. So you can hit us up, conjecturingpod@gmail.com, Twitter, Instagram @conjecturingpod. Let us know what movies you want us to check out. Also, remember, subscribe, rate, review our podcast, whatever you're listening to it on. And check out the Slash and Cast podcast network at slashandcast.net. Don't forget to coming up in 2 weeks. We got the Halloween convention these guys are going to be putting on 30th and 31st. We're going to have a segment on there, so check that out. I think that's also slashandcast.net. They probably have the website there, or also it's just their YouTube channel. So get ready for that. So yeah, that's it for the week. This has been the Conjecturing. I've been Rob.
And Laura.
And Greg.
Yeah, until next time, remember, horror is subjective, so conjecture away. See ya.
Bye.
Say something!
I have a boner.